Hello and welcome back to Handheld Computing. I'm sorry there's been a bit of a delay in making this video. Life gets in the way sometimes, but I'm back on it. We've done some planning and I've got some exciting videos coming up. Today we're finally getting to look at a side-by-side comparison of CE1 and CE2 on the Philips Velo. So let's take a look. So the startup sequence on each device is very slightly different. Not in what it says, but in how the picture looks. So we'll just skip through the two of them side by side so you can see the differences, but as I say, all the text is pretty much the same. So here on the left we have CE1 and here on the right we've got CE2, and before I turn them on there's something slightly odd. When you press the power button on CE1 it doesn't make a noise, but on CE2 it clicks on. Equally, when you turn it off, CE1 clicks and CE2 does not. Why it would do that I have no idea, but it does. Let's power them both on and have a quick look at some of the changes. So before we start, I'll just point out the database icon here and the PowerPoint icon here. All the others are the same. The database application is still on CE2 and we'll come to that in a bit. But PowerPoint is completely new and we'll do a full look at that in a few minutes. One of the immediate obvious changes to the system is that the battery level indicator is now missing from the toolbar. You can add this using third-party software, but there's no way to innately do this within CE2, and this seems a slightly odd change, since being able to see your battery level is pretty important. So as we hit the start button, the first thing you'll notice is we've gained a favourite, and we've lost Explorer as part of that start bar. Next up, if we click on one of the items, programs for example, what you'll see is we've got cascading menus on CE2, but we've got folder filing system on CE1. As the palm-sized PC goes from CE2 into CE3 Pocket PC, we actually see a return to folders rather than cascading menus. Let's have a look at the control panel. So straight away we can see there's a couple of differences. We've now got a new audio recording settings, and we've also got a grayscale settings which we don't have on the previous model. The grayscale settings let you change between 4 and 16 greys. Each time you do this you need to do a soft reset. We're going to leave this in 16 greys. So let's start with the audio recording functions. So in here we've got volume controls for recording and for playback. And we've also got some quality setting. If we go to the audio function on CE1, we can access some similar things. So again, we can adjust the mic level and we can adjust the audio level in here, but not from the control panel. There's also no options for altering the recording compression. This is partly because CE1 doesn't natively support recording and CE2 does. Back at the control panel, we can see we've lost the backlight setting. This has been moved to display. So we get a second tab. In CE1 we had a contrast slider. So the contrast bar has disappeared, but then it's not really necessary if we've got an external wheel to decide exactly what we want. Here in the backlight settings you can choose how long it stays on for, where previously you'd do it in the separate backlight settings. We have lost the ability to have the backlight automatically come on, but then you just turn it on when you need it because the button's just there. Nothing's changed in the communication settings, apart from they've made the window very slightly smaller. We've got the same dialing options, but we've gained some connection options. Now these connection options don't appear until you've actually completed the install, and so now instead of having to deal with a very slow serial connection like on CE1, we can choose to go right up to 57K. As I say, this isn't possible until you've completed the install of CE2, so I'm afraid CE2 install still takes 40 minutes. Nothing's changed in the keyboard owner, password or power options. We still have a situation where, although the option is there to monitor how long your batteries have been in, it's still not available. This is a shame, as it would be nice to get an idea as to how long your batteries had run for. On here we've got a quick start menu, which is actually just a way of reconfiguring all the buttons across the top. Obviously this can be handy as you might want to launch different applications or new applications. The regional settings are largely the same. We've gained a couple more options and it's slightly differently windowed, but essentially it does the same job. Remove programs and stylus is unchanged as there's nothing else to really do. If we have a look at the system settings, we've not gained any new options, but of course we can see that on this side we're running CE1 and this side CE2, and that we've got a lot more RAM on this side. We've got the same memory slider, but as you can see, CE2 takes up a lot more RAM, so we've lost a bit of storage memory, obviously, but you'll also see that it takes up a lot more of the program memory, and this is because it does a lot more in the background. Volume and sound is unchanged, and the world clock has the same functionality, but is laid out ever so slightly differently. As you can see, it's actually windowed on this side, which is a nice touch, but completely unnecessary, and works exactly the same otherwise. So let's look at some of the updates in the applications. So actually, there's been quite a number of improvements in Pocket Word. So straight away, you can see in the menu bar, we've gained a format function and a tool function. Under file, we've got a new option, but we've got a sliding bar, and that's because we can now create a new document from template. And of course, this also means we can save templates. In terms of saving itself, we've gained a couple of new options. So rather than simply having Pocket Word or plain text, we can actually now have Pocket Word, plain text, we can have RTF, Pocket Word template, and of course Pocket Word 1, which is still supported to some extent in this version. We've also usefully gained the ability to password protect documents. Now these are only password protected while they're on the device. Once you transfer it back to the computer, any password protection is lost. But even so, that's an added layer of security for when you're out and about. You'll see we've also gained a print functionality. This allows you to print either using a plugged-in printer or over infrared. And we've gained a few print settings to go with it. Perhaps just as importantly, we've gained a new keyboard shortcut for closing files, Ctrl and W, and this continues throughout the OS so that any documents can be closed using this. Under the edit menu, everything is basically the same except we've gained a redo. Under view, we've gained some control over the scroll bars, we've also gained a full screen mode, and perhaps more importantly, we've gained a zoom mode, which on this low contrast screen is very helpful. We've got a new formatting tab to allow us to change font, paragraphs, and tabs. The available fonts themselves have actually changed, so we've lost a font, although it is possible to add new fonts to CE2. Instead of just having bullet point tabs, we've actually got number tabs as well, and perhaps the most useful thing is hidden under tools, where we now have a spell checker. You can create a custom dictionary under options for your spell checker, which does mean that should you use a lot of technical language, you can add those words to the spell checker. Moving on to Excel, first of all, we've gained the ability to remove the scroll bars, which of course retains a lot more screen real estate, making it much easier to use. We've gained a lot of similar options to Word in that we can now create new documents from templates. We've gained a few extra save options, much as we did in Word, and again we've gained a print option, and we've got the Ctrl W for closing. Edit is much the same, but we've gained a view panel. So under here we can control the scroll bars, as I mentioned before. In addition, we can choose whether or not we want the status bar to be up. We can also remove the column headers, which allows us again more space. We've gained a split functionality, which splits it in 4, and also freeze panes, which is obviously very handy for working with larger sheets. There's a full screen mode, and once more, like in Word, we've got zoom. Under format, as before, we can adjust the row or column height, and we can select a different sheet, although this can be done from the toolbar below. When it comes to formatting cells though, we've got very much the same options in terms of numbers and currencies, etc. All the alignments are the same. As with Word, we've got a slightly reduced font set, although as I say, you can add new fonts. But under borders, instead of just being able to create outlines, we can now offer filled cells in various shades. As you can see straight away, this actually supports colour, although you can't see it on a black and white screen, obviously. Finally, under Tools, we have a couple of options that are available under Format in CE2, but CE2 has gained the Sort functionality and an Auto Filter functionality. So as you can see, there's a whole bunch of useful additions to Word and Excel. This isn't just a tweak to the UI or a slight improvement or a tweak here. Instead, it's a full rework, really. We've gained very usefully on both applications the zoom function, the ability to password protect on the device, control over the scroll bars, and of course printing. In addition, in Pocket Excel, we can now add shading to boxes, and just as usefully, we can use freeze frames, allowing you to scroll around large sheets while still being able to see the important bits in the header and column bar. So let's carry on and have a look at the changes in the PIM functions. Let's take a look at the calendar. So there's a couple of differences under the toolbar, but everything's possible under the menu system. So if we start with File, you'll see that we've now got the option to make a meeting, and we've gained print options, much like we did in Word and Excel. Under the Edit menu, the reminder defaults have been moved in CE2 over towards Options, and instead we've gained a category list, which allows you to edit the categories available. Under View, we've got the option to edit the number of days that we see at any one time, and down at the bottom we've got the option to filter on categories, which would allow you to keep essentially a work and personal diary separate. The Go to Date and Go to Today have been moved to the next category along, which is Go, and under here we've added shortcuts to the other apps. This is quite handy for jumping from one to the other. We've also gained a previous and next day along with a shortcut. However, since you can simply use the arrow keys, this seems a little redundant. Under Tools, we've got a Find option, which is completely missing from CE1 and can come in very handy. And we've got Options, which allows us to set reminders, etc., which you can do under the file system in CE1. The shortcut bar has also added New Meeting, Go to Today, Agenda View, Filter, and Find. So these are all easy accessible. Under Contacts, we get a similar situation where we've gained a print view under the file. The customized columns has been moved from Edit. Under Edit, we've gained the ability to alter the category list. Again, we've gained a completely new menu for Go, which allows us to hop between applications, although perhaps button presses are just as quick. And in Tools, because we've gained categories, we can now filter on categories. We can customize columns, which comes under Options in Tools on CE1. We've also gained Send Mail to Contact. This automatically opens the inbox, adds the email address, and begins an email. In addition, there's an Explore web page where the web page needs adding under Other in the contact, and again it will automatically open Internet Explorer. Under Options, like in CE1, we can choose the country and the area codes, but now we can also add a new font. With Tasks, once again, under File, we've gained the ability to print. Under Edit, the Show Edit panel has actually been removed on CE2, but is now available as a taskbar option. And like on Calendar, the Reminder Defaults has been moved under Options. Once again, we've gained Go, so we can jump to different PIM applications. And under Tools, once more, we've gained a Find option. We can customize the columns, and we can filter on categories. Again, the options allow us to set default priorities, whether we have reminders, and once more, we can change fonts, which we couldn't previously do. The web browser remains unchanged, although there's probably some changes under the bonnet. There's a couple of option differences, including the addition of this Go button, but regardless of those changes, it remains pretty obsolete. Again, Inbox is pretty much exactly the same with almost no differences, so perhaps no great leaps in the personal information management systems here, but the addition of a search option in Calendar is obviously very useful, and the adoption of categories makes a lot of sense when integrating with Outlook. The ability to print off tasks or appointment schedules seems a little redundant since you already have it in the palm of your hand, but it's there anyway. And the addition of a menu option allowing you to swap between applications, clearly a bit redundant on a handheld PC. I think it's probably aimed more at the Pocket PC market that's about to arrive. While the voice memo function is now available natively in CE2, Philips has still opted to use its own software. So let's take a look at some of the Philips software. The voice memo software has had a complete remake. So it's still Philips software, but we've gone from 1.0 to 2.1. As you can see, we've lost the folder menu down the side, but what we've gained is categories. So under File, we've gained Play Next or Previous. We've lost Move because again, we're not going to folder memos, we're going to categorize them. We've gained the Edit Category button because we need it. And the recording properties has been moved from 2 tools into the file menu. So this effectively brings up the same options as the control panel does. If we go into quality, so we've got a couple of options. So we can have set up as a quiet room, as a noisy space, and then we've got custom. So in custom, if you choose compression of true voice, that's what you get. That's 16 minutes a meg, which is pretty good. Of course, if you go to no compression, you can then select the sample rate and you can select the sample size. Of course, going larger on these reduces the amount of recording time you've got significantly. So with these settings, we've got 23 seconds per meg. Given there's no external storage, I think that's probably a little bit high. One of the things we have lost is memory map. Memory map is a handy way of just quickly seeing how much memory you actually have left for storage. So I think that could be a little bit of a loss if you use a lot of voice memos. The All-Pen database application has gone through a couple of updates. However, in use, I can't actually see any differences, although apparently it's gone from 1.5 to 1.7. So Philips saw fit to add one additional application when you did the upgrade to CE2. So if we head into Velo applications, you will see that there is now a unit converter. So this isn't present on CE1 and obviously is quite handy. So it's very simple to use. Choose what units you want to change. So we'll go from feet and we're going to change it into miles and we're going to have 300 feet. Hitting convert now gives you the answer in miles. So this could be very handy. In addition to lengths, you can convert volumes, weights, currency, and of course temperature. When you do a currency conversion, you select the currency you want to move from and then the currency you want to move to, and it gives you the ratio at the bottom. Now obviously currencies fluctuate, so you can change the number in this box to represent the new currency conversion. Once you do that and hit convert, it'll obviously convert it up at the top so you can see what the new value is. It then saves it, so the next time you do the same conversion, it will have this number installed instead. Perhaps one of the slightly interesting things about this is, of course, this represents what conversion rates were like back in 1997. I did find this program to be a little bit glitchy and had it crash more than once on me during testing. So the use of categories in the voice memos obviously is in keeping with the rest of the operating system and makes a lot of sense, particularly given that we don't have a removable memory card anymore as we're using it as part of the ROM. The additional recording options are most welcome. The converter application would be very handy if you're a traveller, and I'm glad that they kept the All-Pen database software, which is vastly superior to the up-and-coming Pocket Access. Let's take a look at the new addition to Windows CE, Pocket PowerPoint. So this is the first time we've seen Pocket PowerPoint, and thankfully Microsoft has included a little overview one so we can see what it actually does. So initially we met with the slide view, and we can scroll through the slides using the left and right arrows, or you can select them by using a drop-down box up at the top. We've got a couple of options on here, so we can obviously open other files, save the changes we've made to this one, save it as a different file, open recent files, and of course close, which is Control and W. Under view, we've got a couple of options. We can go forwards and backwards as we can with the arrows. We've got the slide view, which is what we're currently in, a notes page view, which we'll look at in a moment, and a show view. Under tools, we've got the slide sorter, we've got a title slide, and we've got setup show. So let's start by looking at tile sorter. So under here you can choose where you want a slide to appear in your presentation by moving the arrow keys. You can also remove a slide by ticking the box. Once you're happy with that, come back out. There's a shortcut button on the top bar to do the same thing. Next, down under tools, we can set a title slide. So you can't create new slides, but what you can do is create a single title slide to add onto your presentation. You've got a couple of options for alignment, a couple of font options, and then you can preview what it's going to look like. Once that's done, you've gained a title slide, and that will go along with your presentation. So you can leave this to manually flip through, or you can automatically flip through on a timer. If you use the timed option, it will change slides between 20 and 120 seconds as option. It doesn't allow you to change the timing individually for slides, so this is best used for advertising purposes, for example, or if you're demonstrating your handheld PC. We're going to leave it on manual for the moment, and we're going to head over to the view and have a quick look at the page notes. So the page notes allows you to display your notes alongside the slide that you're showing. This is obviously obviously very useful if you're presenting because you can see your notes at the same time. There's a font button, so you can make that writing a bit bigger should you be stood further away. Presumably if you were hooked up via VGA to an external monitor, you would see this and your clients would see this. So let's have a look at the show itself. So during the sample presentation, it does tell you a little bit more about Pocket PowerPoint. So we can copy presentations onto your handheld PC, and then of course you can leave your laptop at home, which would be very useful. Some of the handheld PCs, including the LG Phenom, actually had a built-in VGA port, so you just use a dongle on it rather than needing a PC card as well. This is a blank slide that I left in, so obviously you can convert slides and move them across. What you will notice is we've not got any movement, we've got no sounds, we've got no videos. These aren't possible to be converted. And as it says here, we get a maximum output of 640x480, which is obviously much better than the handheld PC, but still not exactly HD. It says here we can use the stylus to draw live, and indeed you can. So you press the pen button and you can draw whatever you want. This is pretty futuristic back in the 90s when people are still using OHPs. I think it would have been pretty amazing to have a presentation and be able to simply write on your handheld PC screen and have it appear on the projector. Moving on, it tells us what I've already said about the notes being available, congratulates us on having presentations in the palm of our hand. So other than that, it's all pretty basic. There's a couple of slightly odd options as well. That it's got the functionality that if you press B while in the presentation, it will black out the screen. And if you press W, it will white out the screen, and pressing it again will restore you back to your presentation. I have absolutely no idea why anyone would want to do that. So while I'm sure you'll agree Pocket PowerPoint is obviously very limited, I do think it is a useful addition. If you had the VGA adapter and you were traveling around doing training or something like that where you're using PowerPoint a lot, I think you'd be bossing it, being able to draw straight on your slides and rearrange things on the move. It's a shame it's not a full editor. There is third-party software to allow you to do that, most notably Conduit Pocket Slide, although I believe you need 2.11 before it becomes compatible. Overall, I think the upgrade to CE2 is well worthwhile. It brings many new features to otherwise hindered applications such as Pocket Word and Pocket Excel. The addition of the spell checker is a bit of a must. It's a real shame though that on this device we lose any ability to have external storage, since both drives are taken up by miniature cards. This also means that while it's now possible to play MP3s on your Velo, there's very little storage. Given that a 128K compression gives you about 1 minute a meg, you're only going to get maximum 6 minutes, so it's not exactly going to be a multimedia tool. There's a couple of noticeable absences from the operating system. There's still no ability to write on the screen like you would in Note Taker on the palm-sized PC, and there's still no paint application built into the ROM. When doing a side-by-side comparison, it's also very noticeable how much slower it is to launch applications in CE2, and this is just because so many more processes are running in the background. Having said that, if you can put up with a bit of lag, I would certainly make the upgrade. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss my next video. My name's Hugh. This is Handheld Computing. Thanks for watching.